तक लंबी लाइनों में उम्र बिताइएगा। डिजिटल पेमेंट अपनाइए, चुटकी में हल पाइए। पुराने तरीके कब तक अपनाइएगा? डिजिटल पेमेंट बहुत आसान है। देखिए, चुटकी में पेमेंट चुका। बटुआ ढूंढ रहे हैं? डिजिटल पेमेंट अपनाइए, कभी भी कहीं भी और सुरक्षित। हमने तो इन्हें डिजिटल पेमेंट करना सिखा दिया है। आपने? आरबीआई कहता है कि
डिजिटल पेमेंट अपनाओ,
औरों को भी सिखाओ।
G20 नए विचारों की परिकल्पना के लिए और सामूहिक एक्शन को गति देने के लिए एक ग्लोबल प्राइम मूवर की तरह काम करें। वैश्विक विकास महिलाओं की भागीदारी के बिना संभव नहीं है। भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता की थीम वन अर्थ, वन फैमिली, वन फ्यूचर में पूर्ण रूप से समाहित है।
Welcome. It is 7:30 in the evening in India and we are back again with our spotlight on G20. On India at G20 today, we delve into Youth 20, an engagement group under G20. Youth 20's fourth consultation meeting got underway in Pune today. The official inaugural ceremony will happen on Saturday. This will lead up to the National Youth Conclave 2023 in New Delhi on Monday and Tuesday. At this conclave, the focus will be two-pronged on Urban 20 and Youth 20. On the show today, we will take a look at why amplifying the voice of the youth is important in the context of G20 and how can youth contribute to advancing the goal of sustainable development. I'm Unvan Bhattacharya. First up, the top stories. Fourth Youth 20 consultation meeting on two themes, peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war, the philosophy of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and future of work gets underway in Pune, city of Maharashtra. Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports Anurag Singh Thakur will be the chief guest at the inaugural ceremony on Saturday. In tune with the spirit of International Women's Day, a two-day workshop on mobile filmmaking held in Pune. 25 women hailing from rural areas around Pune in the 18 to 35 age group mentored in the workshop. Two-day National Youth Conclave on Fostering India's Future Leaders to be organized on the 13th and 14th of March at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. The conclave will see youth from all over the country, national leaders, experts and innovators come together to discuss Urban 20 and Youth 20 priorities. United Nations lauds India's G20 presidency for highlighting a number of sustainable development goals like no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. UN Resident Coordinator PB-SHABD says India's G20 presidency has become SDG 20 presidency as India is raising its voice to close financial gaps to achieve the SDGs. The fourth Youth 20 consultation meeting under India's G20 presidency is being hosted by the Symbiosis International University in Pune, a city in the western Indian state of Maharashtra. The two-day meeting that started today is supported by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports in the Government of India. It is a unique opportunity to invite the youth from India and other G20 countries to discuss and offer constructive policy inputs. The youth on their part can leverage the Y20 platform to voice their opinions to a global audience. The inaugural ceremony of the Y20 consultation meeting will take place on Saturday. Anurag Singh Thakur, Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports and Information and Broadcasting, will be the chief guest, and Dr. Sundeep Vaslekar, the President of Strategic Foresight Group, will be the keynote speaker for the inaugural ceremony. The two themes for the fourth Y20 consultation meeting are peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war, the philosophy of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and future of work. There are 5 sub-themes under peace building and reconciliation, and they are Vikas politics or development politics in India as an enabler in conflict resolution, climate action, gender-related conflict and reforms, education and legal reforms needed for social change. Ahead of the inaugural ceremony, a curtain raiser press conference was organized today, and it was addressed by Dr. Vidya Yeravdekar, Pro-Chancellor of the Symbiosis University, and Akash Jha, Secretary of Youth 20. Take a listen.
The theme for this Y20 event, which has been given to us by the ministry, is peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war. Fortunately, the Symbiosis philosophy or the Symbiosis motto has also been similar to this theme. The Symbiosis motto, as you all know, is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and therefore it is in sync with the theme of peace building and reconciliation. Today the program starts in the evening at 5 o'clock. So we will have there are students from Y20 countries that have come to our campus, primarily from countries like Argentina, Australia, Brazil, France, Germany, Indonesia, Japan, Italy, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, United Kingdom, USA, and of course from some EU countries.
The deliberations that would be done here, it's not restricted to that it would be close to this small event. These policy papers would be going ahead for the final negotiations pan G20 when this the final summit would be taking place during the month of August. We have placed this on record, but we would be having a global congrégation of G20, G7, Commonwealth and BRICS leaders coming to India, specifically Maharashtra, and making global statements on what the Y20 or the G20 would achieve in this.
And joining us now for perspective is Akash Jha, Secretary of Youth 20. You just heard from him from Pune, and he's joining us from Pune. Such a pleasure, Akash, to have you on India at G20. Now, I was thinking about how this is such an exciting opportunity for the voice of the youth to reach the whole globe, that is. And there are discussions and brainstorming happening on topical issues. There are 2 themes that have been selected. One of those themes is 5 sub-themes. Having said that, tell us more about how the voice of the youth is going to be mainstreamed, not just in G20, but also in the other fora that you spoke about, like G7, BRICS. How is this going to make an impact around the world?
Yeah, Namaste, and happy to be here. This very precedent is progressing towards is substantially making its mark, because India also happens to be one of the youngest G20 country in compared to the other member countries, and how it's gonna make a significant mark alongside the 5 themes that we have brought in and released our white papers upon based on the principles of Panchamahabhutas. So primarily we are reaching out to the youth right from the rural areas through our events of outreach events of Chopals, and right up to the most experts in their domains of medical sciences, be it engineering, since future of work is also theme under the same, and we are also having health, wellness and sports, where we have been hearing back from the countries alongside the G20 and some member observer member countries as well about our traditional medicines, about our Ayurveda. So this is how we are trying to reach out to each stakeholder, primitively in the template of youth, A, and B, the other organizations who happen to be intergovernmental international organizations like G7, the BRICS, the Commonwealth, being considering India's presidency and India's principles that have been brought to the fore and the agendas that we are discussing, all of these international organizations and their youth stakeholders primarily have reached out to India and how they could augment more towards this youth voice. And on the same lines, throughout our presidency, we have invited them to India at the very end, once we are done with our negotiations, and a final output that comes in from the Y20 is what we are envisioning for.
Okay. Now, if you look at the two main themes, one is peace building and reconciliation, ushering in an era of no war. Many would say that this is the stuff of diplomats, but then they forget that the diplomats of today were students of yesterday in many universities. You know, what were some of the exchange of views that have taken place on this particular theme, and how do you see the philosophy of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which runs like a common thread across diplomatic meetings and is the central thought as far as India's diplomatic thinking is concerned?
Yes, absolutely. Since as we consider the global conditions now, it is very pertinent that in all of the informal and formal meetings that we have been having, ushering an era of no war and peace building has been a statement which has been underlined, and they are looking forward that throughout our negotiations, India's presidency keeps it at 4A, and B, the member peace from the west of the globe have been repeatedly bringing it to our notice that peace building and ushering an era of no war could be brought into the actionable template only during the India's presidency. And considering us as the youth voice and also the youth voice that comes in from these member countries, they have been repetitively envisioning India, looking at India to bring forward some very determined areas of action which has an impact on the youth which is constructive, because considering the pandemic and the situation after pandemic that is going on throughout the West and some of our friend countries, that this needs to be tackled, and a very vocal voice is coming towards the India's presidency, particularly Youth 20, to address as well as bring about an actionable template from our very theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, inclusivity, one earth, one family, and absolutely one future is what we each of the stakeholders emphasize upon. And India, having its history towards it, we are very much reaching out to each stakeholder, and alongside are these 5 priority areas. We are making most of it how this could be consulted and best outputs could be brought.
Okay. And the next theme is the future of work. Sky is the limit there. There's a lot that remains to be done considering the digital divide within countries, between countries. India is also the voice of the global south. Several of those countries also face the issue of a huge digital divide. We need to be ensuring that our youth are well versed with futuristic skills. They are well versed with what is required if they have to make a mark, say in AI or artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So what were the kind of exchange of views that happened in this context, and what do the youth collectively think on what needs to happen?
Collectively, as we are running through the consultations across, we are reaching out to each stakeholder as future of work not only belongs to the policy makers but also the people who would be walking into the territories of the domains across the lines and subjects and expertise. So we have been running across this, and a lot of sub themes that we have come through during this consultation is innovation. They have asked us, why are you restricting the theme to innovation 4.0, but India is prepared to bring forward the agenda for innovation 5 and ahead 8.
Right.
We have also been hearing about the new policies to be brought in. The most interesting one that I can bring it to the fore is that it is from India, where a Ministry on Artificial Intelligence should be brought in, and how it could impact the future of work and how it could be best augmented towards our more digital future. Like if comparatively these three to see towards the most developed nations and the developing nations and the situation where India stands, we are at a pace where a lot of our member countries happen to be categorized into the developed terminology, are also willing to share the technologies that we have, because if it's considered 5G, if we have the lowest pricing for the 5G across the world. So this also has been emphasized point by them. So they want to come across these technologies. They want to collaborate with us on the space technology. They want to collaborate with us, and they want India to make it a guideline and bring forth the areas which is not confined to any political confined areas. They see India, it is where we can bring a Vasudevakam Kutumbakam, this philosophy in action. So in future of work, so a lot of areas, a lot of research collaborations have been brought to us. Very recently, collaboration on antibiotics has also been proposed by the countries in the West, and they're looking at our institutions, at IITs, at state universities. They have been reading more about us and have been envisioning that we give the templates and policies and streamline these areas in a more nurtured way, so that the world that we are progressing towards the 22nd century, it is well documented with the best and sacred efforts.
Akash, somebody would be watching the show today and would be coming across this term Youth 20 for the first time. What if they want to engage with your platform? How can they reach out to you? Because it's important that the entire ecosystem is as democratized as possible. It should be as open, it should be as representative and inclusive as possible if it has to be the voice of the youth of India or of the global south. So how can they make their presence felt? How can they ensure that their voice reaches you?
Yes, we are very much, we actually want to make G20 and specifically Youth 20 Jan Bhagidari event in India. So A is they can always reach out to us through our website. This is a very normal template, but moving ahead, we are planning to have a youth envoy of G20 across each university in India, and we have mapped that there are 1070 universities, there are 400 private universities, and there are 8000 plus colleges which are not universities but are affiliated to universities. So we are giving the charge of the G20 to the people in the universities, the students in the universities, to take the charge as the youth envoys, and we'll be very soon announcing it throughout our handles. And DD National is the first platform where I'm announcing it, that people can write to us with the details of their institutions, details of their geographies, and we'll surely revert back to them. And we want to have their voice as much as possible. Be it a rural voice from tier 1, 2, 3, or the most rural connect of India. We are having events planned from the city of Tawang to the city of Jammu. So we are making an maximum outreach as much as possible, and we also we are looking forward to hear back from the youth on all of these angles. So our handles could be reached out y20india.in, www.y20india.in, and in addition to this, our social media handles could be written in, and we'll surely get back to them alongside all of these other artilleries that we are looking into.
Pleasure, and thank you for the headline making statement that you've just given us, that each university will have a Y20 envoy, will be reaching out to people in rural areas, to tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well, to the youth particularly. Thank you so much, and all the very best to you, Akash, and to your team, to Youth 20 as a whole. Let's get in some more voices from the Youth 20 consultation meeting in Pune. Well, DD India correspondent Shyama Mishra spoke to Ugyen Dorji, Minister of Home and Cultural Affairs in the Royal Government of Bhutan. The minister spoke on what India said and the presidency of G20 to India, what that means and what really to the people of Bhutan on a psychological level, and in practical terms to Southeast Asia. He added that India and Bhutan share strong economic and cultural ties as well as people-to-people relationship. Listen in.
The Y20 consultation meeting is on here at Pune, and we have our very special guest, Ugen Dorji. He's from Bhutan. He's the Minister of Home Affairs. So, welcome to DD India. First of all, we are hosting the Y20 here at Pune, and India is also having the presidency. I heard you saying that Bhutan is very delighted to have India being the host or being the president of G20. How does it impact Bhutan?
Well, it is a proud moment, the fact that the presidency of G20 is with India this year. Proud moment not just for our friends in India, but also the entire South Asian neighborhood, including the tiny kingdom of Bhutan, my country, Bhutan. It's a proud moment for us because when India does well and takes the leadership role at the global stage, it means a lot at a psychological level and at the practical level in terms of the development and the overall role in the cooperation and the sense of pride that the South Asian people share in general. So more at a psychological level, but in practical terms, I don't think I need to highlight more on this because Bhutan and India shares very close ties of friendship. And then the friendship ranges everything from economic cooperation to cultural ties to people exchanges.
So you've mentioned that, Bhutan on a psychological level is very happy. Also, you've been here and inaugurating this exhibition here. You've gotten a sense of how the Y20 is being hosted here in India, in Pune. How have you felt so far? And looking at those topics, at those themes which India has chosen, what do you think of that?
I think those are all very relevant themes that India has chosen. Themes that are relevant for the global community, not just the Indian community. And I think it's a wonderful idea, the fact that you have come up with this display of the local artisans and the products. In a way, you are showing the soft power and identity of Indian to the delegates from the G20 countries who are all congregated here for the Y20 consultation leading up to the G20 summit later this year.
We always say that G20 or any other engagement group is a platform to share your best practices. From Bhutan, we can learn that happiness is an important factor, and also when we are talking about Y20, mental health policy is also something that they are talking about. How do you tell the whole world? How do you share this knowledge that you all have?
I don't think I'll be able to cover the subject of cross-national happiness as a philosophy in just 1 to 2 minutes that I have. But it is a philosophy that talks about development approach that goes beyond the material well-being. It takes into account the psychological, spiritual, emotional well-being of the citizens and of that particular society or the economy that you are talking about. It's about a more sustainable, holistic approach to development. In that sense, I think it's a very important theme that the Y20 group, the consultations that are going on in this university at this moment, should delve into such topics. After all, these are the group of people under the age of 35 who in the next 5 to 10 years will go on to lead their countries, their economies and their businesses around the world.
What would you like to tell the important topics that the students should pick up and place it on a global level?
A whole host of issues that the younger generation of citizens in this country and around the world must be preoccupied with. Because when we are talking about the future, we are really talking about a time from today where they will be taking the most benefit out of the prosperity that the world might see, or they would be suffering the most out of the disasters that we might have created. And it's in their hand, the talent, the energy and the imagination, the creativity that they must make use of to make the world a better place to live in.
Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us. So that was the minister who rightly mentioned that the future of this whole world is in the hands of the youth, and definitely we have the youth here who are going to do the consultations, and their recommendations would go on the global G20 level, which the whole world can utilize. With camera person Rohan Gauli, this is Shyama Mishra for DD India, Pune, Maharashtra.
On the sidelines of the 4th Y20 consultation meeting, and with an endeavour to celebrate the spirit of the International Women's Day, a workshop on mobile filmmaking was organised by a collaboration between Symbiosis Institute of Mass Communication, Press Information Bureau and National Film Development Corporation in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. About 25 women between the age group of 18 to 35 years participated in this workshop. These young women belong to rural areas around Pune and have been adopted by the Symbiosis International University under its outreach program. DD India correspondent Shyama Mishra spoke to some of the participants of the workshop. Listen in.
We have the students here, the women here. What have you learned so far in this workshop?
In this workshop, they have taught us what are the rules of the camera capturing and the angles, and also some knowledge about reel making and how to monetize it through Instagram and YouTube, and how to edit an YouTube video and how to upload and get attention of public and publicity from that videos.
All right, okay. So she has spoken about YouTube, Insta, and we all know that, everyone is a filmmaker when it comes to reels, and we spend a lot of time watching these reels, scrolling these reels throughout the day. So, what have you learned in these reels? How do you make them? Because ordinarily anyone can make it, but how do you make it professionally?
जनरली सोशल मीडिया आज सब लोग यूज करते हैं, जैसे कि रील्स बनाना है फेसबुक पे, इंस्टा पे। तो यहाँ पे हमने सीखा है कि रील्स कैसे बनाना है, उसे एडिट कैसे करना है, और उसका यूज हम अपने बिजनेस को या फिर हमारे जो भी फेस्टिवल है उनको हम अपलोड कैसे करेंगे, ये सब हमें रील्स के सेशन में हमें सीखा है.
So we heard these women and they've rightfully said the reels and the social media and the filmmaking, all these usages are not just for themselves but for the society as a whole, and this is one aim of G20, Y20 to grow together. With camera person Rohan Gauli, this is Shyama Mishra for DD India, Pune, Maharashtra.
United Nations has lauded India's G20 presidency for highlighting a number of sustainable development goals like no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, addressing the joint valedictory session of the 57th Capacity Building Program of Civil Servants of Bangladesh and Arunachal Pradesh. The UN Resident Coordinator, Mr. PB-SHABD, said, in fact, India's G20 presidency has become SDG20 presidency. Those were his exact words, as India is raising a strong voice in order to close financial gaps in reaching those goals. Mr. PB-SHABD pointed out that after a long gap, 4 emerging economies like Indonesia, India, Brazil and South Africa will be holding the G20 presidency in a consequent manner, that is one after the other, to raise the issues of developing countries and to become the voice of the global South. He said India's G20 leadership will be followed by the SDG summit in New York after 2 weeks in September this year. He also said that this handshake will be important for the midterm review of the SDG 17 goals. As part of India's G20 presidency, the National Institute of Urban Affairs, with support from Smart Cities Mission of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports in the Government of India, is hosting the National Youth Conclave 2023. We leave you with this introductory video. Take a look. Namaskar.
मिठाई तो हमारे जमाने में होती थी।
हाँ तो जाइए ना अपने जमाने में।
रोमांस तो हमारे जमाने में होता था।
पेमेंट भी उसी जमाने का है। अरे भैया डिजिटल पेमेंट करना सीखे नए जमाने में। इजी, सेफ एंड फास्ट है। हमने तो इनको डिजिटल पेमेंट करना सिखा दिया। आपने ये सेल्फी लेते हैं, ये हमारे जमाने का है। आरबीआई कहता है कि
डिजिटल पेमेंट अपनाओ,
औरों को भी सिखाओ।
Politics hots up in Maldives as election nears. Can President Soleh retain power?
The prospects of us winning this election
is very good.
Or will allies play spoil sport?
Are his actions becoming a liability of sorts for the party?
I hope that we will be able to clear all these and move forward united.
Watch an exclusive interview of Maldives Foreign Minister Abdullah Shahid at 8:30 p.m. on Friday, 10th March, only on DD India.
G20 नए विचारों की परिकल्पना के लिए और सामूहिक एक्शन को गति देने के लिए एक ग्लोबल प्राइम मूवर की तरह काम करें। वैश्विक विकास महिलाओं की भागीदारी के बिना संभव नहीं है। भारत की G20 अध्यक्षता की थीम वन अर्थ वन फैमिली